All right. Well, I guess we will get started. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the GP client update and briefing. My name is Timbo Grakis, the Director of Business Development at Maner. I'll kind of be leading and hosting today on the front end, a few little updates from me, and then Tom Jablonski, who is our lead Microsoft consultant, will jump in we'll jump in and show a little bit of Business Central and talk through some more of the specifics there. So all right, so on the just to get started, latest updates that we've received from Microsoft in terms of life cycle of the product, as we've sent out in emails. September 2029 is when Microsoft has announced support and updates for GP will end. At that point, there'll be no more product enhancements to Great Plains. And then, as you can see, critical security patches will continue until 2031. We want to reiterate that as long as we have the resources on our staff, that we will continue to support our GP clients. Microsoft will encourage clients to be looking to transition off, to look for new software. We're going to be here as a resource to help on the evaluation of that, and to as that process comes up and the evaluation and even implementing of new software with one of our products, we'd be there for our GP clients, but we will also be there to support with our GP resources as long as we have the ability to. So we're not taking a strong arm approach to force everybody off, but we are going to continue to provide information about as it's coming out from Microsoft, but also around the cloud products that are available and that we sell and support. So quickly on why people have been looking to transition to the cloud, as we've been having these conversations and migrating GP clients off of it and onto new system. The kind of three of the real big things have been the real-time access to data. For people, as long as you have an internet connection and access to a browser, you have, excuse me, able to access Business Central, get in there and have that real-time look at the data. And the real-time look has really been helpful in kind of better decision making for our clients, and as they've kind of transitioned into new software. The cost efficiency, security standpoint, you no longer have the hardware, servers, maintenance, upgrades, any of the costs associated with that. Cloud providers are handling all of that on their end, so your IT staff and can be more of kind of strategic thinking for your business, as what IT needs may be moving forward, instead of worrying about upgrading and maintaining the hardware that's within your system. And then lastly, increased collaboration. You have greater efficiencies and agility and connectivity by being able to have more people, working on the same data set. And so it's, and in this kind of remote work environment, with the access to it, it's increased the collaboration teams can have, and kind of the speed and efficiency of which they've been able to work. And the last thing that I want to address, move forward, our team, we are offering GP assessments, which are completely free to the clients. You can see on the screen as to what those outputs are coming out of those, but it's really given us a chance to, really take a deep look and discovery with your team as to what the current environment looks like for you, from a software standpoint in your current environment, addressing challenges and outlining areas of improvement, and then, like it says, creation of a written recommendation of how of moving forward. And so this is a really good tool if you're just at the beginning of thinking about what a transition to a cloud accounting software might look like. This is a great place to start to kind of get everything right set and understand where we are currently, and we can help kind of formulate a plan moving forward through this assessment. So these are, like I said, completely free to clients. In the past, it's been a charged engagement to do these. But it's something we feel very strongly about, and so we're there's a program being put in place to be able to do this for our clients. So this information will be sent out out of the after to everybody that's attending with contact information. I'll be the direct contact to work with on getting these kind of set up and scheduled and coordinated. But we'll make sure everyone has that information following up on this, and then you'll continue to see it as we're sending out emails and information to our client base. So those are the main points that I wanted to update on at the beginning of this, and then Tom, I'll pass over to you to share and kind of dig in and kind of get into your information.
I think you have to unshare. It says there's multiple. There we go. All right.
Tom, one thing before you start, if you do have questions during this, put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring it, and then we'll address all the questions before we get out of here. Thanks.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. So I'm sitting at the home screen for Business Central right now. We tend to call it BC, so you might hear me reference it that way. But this is a role center that's designed to try and help you guys get access to your data. GP, Microsoft tried to get some of this stuff built out there years ago, trying to get these active little buttons out there, and it never quite took hold. It didn't really happen for the forebearer product of this one either, but in this new world, these queues work really, really nice. It's trying to flush out information. I'm in here as a manufacturing manager. On this one, I'm in here as a purchasing agent. And then over here, I'm in as a business manager. And you can see each of these role centers tries to surface out details about the system that's pertinent to the role center that you had. And then if you were to click on one of these queues, it takes you in and lets you see the details behind it. And you can drill all the way into the original document that originated from that or into this queue. So these role centers do work very, very nicely. They're super easy to kind of switch around. You can choose from a whole list of things, and we can also help you kind of custom develop your own role center if that's what you wanted to do, okay? The other thing in here that I wanted to showcase, so many of you might be a multi-companied Microsoft or Dynamics GP client where you have 1, 2, 5, 10, 100 companies that you have access to. When you want to launch multiple companies inside a GP, you're technically gobbling up 2 different licenses. So if you kind of look at the company name here, I'm in TWJ Demo, I'm in Cronus USA, and on this one, I'm in Connect Demo. These is 3 separate companies that I'm in, but I'm in as me. I'm only using my license. I have rights to all of these companies, and therefore I'm not preventing somebody else from getting into our system. And so it's different than what you might be used to on the GP side, where I would be consuming 3 separate licenses all at the same time right now. Sorry, I'm going to get little pop-ups that keep appearing up there. My apologies for that. So again, we don't have to worry about switching things around, doing any of that stuff. We can do all the multi-company. If I want to switch companies, nice and easy to just click here. And here's all the different companies I could choose from. And I could just say, hey, I'm going to go to this one and hit switch. And it'll switch me over to that other company. It's that simple. I'm going to close these other ones down because I don't need to leave all this open simultaneously. So I'm going to just get out of that. All right. So now I'm going to play around in here in my business manager. It's the role center I enjoy using the most because I'm the most familiar with this layout. Again, we've got data that's being surfaced out to us. And if I wanted to look at my overdue purchase invoices, I click here, it takes me in, lets me see them all. And I could drill all the way back to the original document again and take a look at what's going on and maybe try to figure out why I haven't paid them yet. So gives me that capability. Up at the very top, this is my company name. Anytime I open up screens and I just want to get back here, if I click on it, it basically closes all my screens. There used to be a close all windows in GP. This would be the equivalent of that. And it just gets you back to this landing page to let you go in there and do what you want to do. Then in each role center, you've got different menu options that are available to you, and it's just going to take you to certain areas within the system. If it, like in GP, you could do shortcuts. If you wanted to create a shortcut, That's what these are. So I could have gone to sales and then gone to customers. But by coming into here and just looking here, I've got my shortcut little ribbon here where I can go into customers super quick by just clicking this. So in BC, you can go and add in any shortcut that you wanted simply by using our search button up here. So it's the same magnifying glass that any of you would be used to seeing in GP. But if I wanted to, I want to go and bring up a aged accounts receivable report and create a shortcut for it, right? So right here, I can see that there's my report. I could click the bookmark right here, and it's going to add it into my shortcut list in the background. In fact, I'm going to add that one, and I'll add the accounts receivable one as well. So I could then close this up, and I've just added 2 new shortcuts. And if I clicked on it, it would take me right into running my accounts, aged accounts payable. So it's that easy to add anything. If you just navigate to a screen and you didn't already have it here as a shortcut, you would be able to click on that bookmark on any of the screens and make it be one of the shortcuts that you get in here. Then further on down here, right, we've got all sorts of information. It's basically a ginormous dashboard for you with some real dashboards and different pieces of data that you can track inside the system here. Each one might do slightly different things. If I'm in as a purchasing agent, I might see my favorite vendors instead of my favorite accounts. I'm in as a business manager, so it's giving me the option to look at favorite accounts. We have many different little charts and graphs that we can look out here and kind of choose, and we can actually cycle through all of these if that's what we really wanted to do, right? Is just say, okay, I want to look at my income and expense. It's not going to have a lot of great data. It's a demo environment. But the point would be is in your world, this would start to take hold and have a lot more meaning for you. And then we used to get people all the time that would ask us, can we schedule a report inside a GP? And we can do that here. It's super simple. And so here's my aged accounts receivable that I've set up to say, hey, I want this to run every single week. And you can see it's been sitting out there for weeks running in the background. So instead of me having to go launch my aged accounts receivable, maybe it was scheduled to run first thing this morning. And then all I have to do is click on this and I'd be able to open up the report. That simple. So it's already staged and waiting for me to get into when I come in the morning. So we have those capabilities to go out there and do that stuff. Digging into the system a little bit deeper, we can start to go in here and I'm going to start with the more detailed kind of things like wanting to do a purchase invoice, right? And so different than GP, right? Your AP screen is really meant to be, hey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create an entry and it's just a total entry. Our purchase invoice screen allows us to actually do a couple of different things. So I'm coming in and I've pre-staged some information for you. And so from that perspective, here's a purchase invoice. We can enter it by GL account, or we can enter it by using real items in our inventory, right? And so if I were to click into this, these are all my items I could choose from. And I can go buy anything with real quantities and everything. And if I were to post it this way, it would actually increase my inventory if this was a true inventoried item versus a non-inventoried item. Or I can do things more generically. I'm buying office supplies and I just know that they're going to charge us $550 for the office supplies, and I can charge it out to the proper GL account. In GP, you would have had to click on distributions to get here and see how you were going to segment it out. And you can do it right within the entry right here and deal with it that way. So this is the more detailed way to bring in a purchase invoice, just to be clear. If you didn't want to do it this way, the more way of dealing with it from a more payables centric way would be as if I came into purchasing, we would then be able to do a purchase journal. Where'd my purchase journal go? Well, then let's change this and do, oh, there's my purchase journal. It was on my shortcut. So in here, if you think about it, what I'm doing here is I'm going through and I'm telling it that I want to charge it up to my vendor, okay? In BC, we have this cool feature that allows us to do a multi-line journal, a 2-line journal entry all from one line. And so if you look at these first 3 lines, I'm technically doing the same thing twice, but I'm showcasing one of our cool features inside of BC, which is I want to charge up a payable. It goes to this vendor, which is going to, This is not the payable account. This is actually the vendor account, right? And or the vendor ID. So when I look it up, it's First Up Consultants. And again, in here, I'm going to come across and say, hey, this is going to be a payable for $400. And I want it to hit my expense 61,400, which is my office supplies expense account. Okay. And so by doing this all in one line, it lets me hit my AP account because it's tied to the vendor, lets me hit my expense account. I'm all done. Everything's fine. If you don't like doing things in one line, that's what these next two lines are, is you'll notice that the doc number looks exactly the same, and it lets me just do it on a two line. And then the third one is really just saying, if you really had to hit multiple GL accounts, this is hitting 3 separate GL accounts. And so that's all this is really kind of showcasing. Now, just to let you see that this is doing what I'm telling you it's supposed to do, I'm going to go into post. We're going to do a preview post. And what you'll see is here's all those journal entries that resulted. So that first one did a real 2-line journal entry, hitting the expense account, the debit, hitting the AP account for the 400. And then this is the 2-line version of it. And then here's the 3-line version hitting all these 3 different expense accounts, along with any department codes and things like that that we use for our dimensions. So this is the easiest way to get payables into the system. This would be the closest thing you'd have to go in and put in like you did inside of GP with your accounts payable. The other one would be more like you were doing a purchase order, but we also have a purchase order screen that would actually be the 3-way match that you'd be doing in there. So it looks just like the purchase invoice. I was just cutting to the chase. Okay. So lots of cool capabilities, very different than GP. But this also gives us a lot more capabilities in terms of ways that we can deal with things. One of the other things I forgot to showcase, which I meant to do when I was in here, is the system is designed for you to be able to add and remove things that make sense to you or don't make sense to you. And what does that mean is we get to go in and we can start to personalize screens. And so I'm looking at my list of purchase invoices. And if I wanted to, I could click into this one. And if need be, I can come in, I can start saying show more. I start to see more details. I see their address information and all this other stuff. I don't have to have all this stuff exposed all the time, which is why mine's usually shown and show less, because this is all the main stuff. I can control what shows up in this version of it versus this version of it, and even versus this version of it that just collapse the entire section, because I don't really want to be looking at all that detail. Once I put in the right information, or maybe I integrated this data in, I can see what it all looks like up here without me having to look at all of that stuff exposed up here. The other thing that you're capable to do then is we can come into here. Never been able to, many of you towards the end of life for GP got the ability to actually make screen changes, but they weren't easy. Inside of BC, we're enabling users to come in and personalize their screens. All of these fields right here relate to everything that's in this header section and any of these footer sections down into here, okay? And so sometimes when you go into personalize, there's only a couple of fields. However, when I start to click into the lines section, now I've got many, many more fields that I can add into here. And so the other part of this would be is maybe you do project accounting, job costing, whatever you want to call it, right? We have all those things that are available to us, but we don't have to have them on the screen if we don't need them. But if I did need it, all I'd have to do is drag, drop, and I've just added a new field inside of BC. You couldn't do it this easy in GP. I love GP, done it for a long time, but at the same time, this is a more modern environment and it helps us go through and do these things. The other thing about our system is this. It's super easy for you to do these kinds of things as an end user, because again, we're trying to empower all of you to let the system work the way you need it to. And that's inclusive of maybe you start with a common role center for you in all of these screens. However, the way your mind's processing things, you want to move some things around. You can just as easily come into here and start moving any of these columns around that you see fit, so that you don't have to sit there and say, well, I don't need to see projects and I don't want to look at this other stuff over here, but somebody else somewhere else might want to do it. You can start to move all of your details around and make the system work the way your mind likes to work, and do the things in the order that you prefer to do it. Okay. So super easy to do. This would have been relatively easy to do in GP to just move things around, but to literally go add something took a lot more effort. And using the modifier inside of GP. Most people just asked us to go modify for them. The other thing that's super easy is this. In GP world, if you said, hey, I need a custom field and it doesn't exist, you probably bought an add-on from E1 that did the extender, things that were trying to make it be a little bit more user-friendly to get additional data elements into GP, because GP was dexterity based and it took a lot to go out there and program it all into it. In here, if you said, and here's a real example, we've got people that are going to store all of their images of their documents, which you can store right within the system. I could come into here, open up my my document attached, and I could attach any document if I wanted. But we have customers that actually do it in their SharePoint site. And so our developer's gone out there and added the SharePoint URL right here, which we could have shared in a link, but they said it's a couple clicks to get there. And if we just drop it right here, so it took our developer a whopping like 30 minutes to go add that field in there and get the logic built out. And so from that perspective, doing a true customization, such as adding a field like that, totally different, very much easier than it ever was inside of Dynamics GP. And so it's empowering you and your teams to go out there and let the system work the way you need to, okay? So all throughout the system, we can do that. It's something that GP was never really good at. The other part of this stuff is we leverage a lot of interrelationship with all of the Microsoft stack. So we have Edit in Excel. We've got the ability, so I'm going to go and click on my vendor list real quick here and use this as the way to go out here and showcase it. So here's all my vendors currently in the system. I can click the button here, do Edit in Excel. I've cheated and already taken it out and then pre-staged some data against it. But if I click this button, it then launches Excel for me. That was really there it goes. It launches Excel for me and it brings in this pane for me. Now, the first time you ever do this, you do have to accept that you're going to add this add-in. But once you do, everything's great. And I'm just going to add in 3 new vendors here, okay? And I did put an address in for the final one, just that last one for Ace Hardware, but these don't exist. So watch what happens when I go ahead and say I want to publish this. And to add a new one, I think Maner's already out there. Let's just do Microsoft. I'm going to add Microsoft in. All it takes to add another one is to do this. It's adding it into the array just by me clicking beneath it. There's a couple other data elements I need to add over there, but now it's going to add in 4 new vendors. When I hit publish, it's going out, it's pushing it in here, and this is a bi-directional. So there's the brand new vendor numbers that just got assigned into the system. The last one that was on my screen was the 250. This is using an auto numbering system that was built inside of BC to go do this. And so now notice they're not there yet, but when I go ahead and I hit my F5 key, I didn't want it to refresh that much, but sorry. Anyway, there they all are. They just got added in. It is a bi-directional edit in Excel. What's another use case for this? I could be in my items. I could take out all my items and do a price update if that's what I wanted to do by doing some math in Excel, updating the field that has the new price in there, and then pushing it back into my system. We used to have to sell you guys Smart Connect and other import-export tools to be able to do the same kind of thing, and it's inherent in the system with our edit in Excel. Okay, so we got that going on. One of the things I did mean to showcase is when you come into our vendor list, okay, so I'm in here looking at my vendor list, and I haven't actually selected a vendor, but you can see, I can already see all sorts of information about this particular vendor. I can see their current outstanding balance. I can see any of the payments that they've made so far. And if I clicked on payments, it would take me and show me all of their payments to this point. All of the stuff on the screen, for the most part, is hyperlinked in here. And then as I scroll down further, it's going to show me these cues saying, hey, I've got some posted credit memos. I've got some posted invoices. I've got a return order that's sitting out there. I could click on it and it'll take me out to the return order. So I'm not even in the vendor card yet, and it's already exposing all of these details about all of these different vendors, showing different pieces of data without me having to navigate all the way into the card. Now I'm officially in the card and I get to see everything about it, and I have all that same information here. Okay. Another thing that's really kind of cool about this is this level of detail, seeing this and seeing all this information, it's a free license you can get inside of Microsoft Teams, which many of us use for our communication processes. You would have that same drill back capability that I could look at this, I could see all of these cues sitting here, and I could drill back to this all from within Teams. And it's a free license. It's a read-only license that you get inside of BC so that you could have users that you don't even have to provide a cheaper Teams license in here. They can just have the free version if all they got to do is come in here and consume data. It's kind of cool. Cruising on down. The other thing about our system is I don't really care about numbers anymore. I don't care about vendor numbers. I don't care about customer numbers. I don't care about GL account numbers. What does that mean? If I go back into a purchase invoice again, just to play around, I'm going to click a new button. And in here, I want to go ahead and I want this to go to Fabricam. So I'm going to type in Fabricam and I'm just going to do that much of it. And I'm going to tab off. Didn't like where I tabbed. Hang on. Let's try this again. All right, let me tab there. Oh, come on. Let me reset you. Very difficult. Let's try this one more time. Helps when you do the right thing. All right, let's try that one more time. Let's just go here. Fabric. So I just started typing the beginning of their name and it found them. I don't care that their vendor number is 10,000 anymore. I get kind of lazy and I just type all that stuff in there like that. And then same thing down into here. I could switch this back into the GL account. And in here, I could say that I want this to go to my miscellaneous expense account. And it found miscellaneous expense by me just typing in MISC. And I didn't have to worry that it was 61,500. So GP lets us do a search, a fuzzy logic search across all these things anymore. And I'm not so fixated on trying to put logic into my vendor numbers, my customer numbers, my GL accounts. Obviously, it's numbers. But again, it lets me get there a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster than it used to be inside of GP. I'm going to bounce back out to our main screen again. And a couple more things to talk about. We did our search. Oh, so the other thing in our system is, so if I wanted to get to something fast, like I wanted to get to that purchase invoice and I didn't have it already on my screen, you can come into our search. I could take the time to type in purchase invoice, okay? But what I really like about our search is it actually lets us come into here and I can just start typing really short word fragments and it says, oh, did you mean you wanted to go here or here or here? And again, just by me typing in 6 letters, it kind of understood where I wanted to go and I can get back there super easy and do this. So I like that. Not only does our search let us do that kind of a thing, I do have to fix something when I go through this, just to warn you, because I keep changing my role centers and so it's tied to a bad role center. Hopefully it's fixed, but it's probably not. Ah, no, it did. Okay. I had to reset it and make sure it was my business manager. But all I did was type in a posted invoice number. Somebody called me about their invoice and I'm looking up an invoice number and it's like, did you want to go into this? Did you want to go into this? And if I were to click on this, here is that posted invoice that I just referenced. And it found it based on the doc number. And that was just me using the search capability that I use to find screens, as well as finding actual information throughout my system. So again, that's a search anything now. It didn't start out that way. It was really about just getting to the proper screens and Microsoft just keeps improving the interface. All right, a few more things to kind of run through here. Journal entries. If I come down into here, I'm gonna go into my general journals. And I created 3 different general journals out here. And it's to kind of walk through similar to what I did to you with on the purchasing side of it is. But if I go into this TWJ journal, we've got it where we can have just a standard, this is my debit and credit kind of a screen. If this is how you want it to be, here's the transaction number that you want it to be. And I'm going to credit out my prepaid expense and insurance expense, and I did it to rent expense. I meant to do it to insurance expense. So if we change this, let's do life insurance expense. Okay. So again, it was that easy for me to find the thing I meant to do it to, not do it to from prepaid insurance to actual rent expense. That would have been silly. So here's your debit and your credit. If you like to do your journal entries this way, it could be a 2-line, it could be a 50-line. Okay. All is good. Nothing to worry about. When you're done doing it all you have to do is come into here and click posts, and it posts your 2-line journal entry, and you're off to the races. Okay. I created a couple more just to kind of showcase some of the other things. This is something that's unique to BC. You couldn't do this inside of GP. Okay, so I came in through that debit and credit version of it. I do have to switch this back into my show more columns version. This gives me much more flexibility to play around in my system. And so now what I'm doing in my journal entry, so any of you that have to post payroll into your system, which is probably all of you, right? You would probably want to do a journal entry, but you can't. You have to do that through a bank transaction entry screen, which does not have an import into it. And from that perspective, people always complained, like, I want to be able to import here. We had to sell you an import tool. So from that perspective, in BC, we are able to sit here and do our multi-line payroll journal entry, hitting all my debits and credits, inclusive of hitting the bank account at the end of it. And this will show up as a reconciling item in my bank rec, just by calling out the bank here. So again, I get to come into here, do all my backs and forths, all my ins and outs with all my payroll, taxes, everything else. I just did a really simplified one. This could be 50 lines long. And we also have the ability that just leveraging, if you have a payroll file that you get, it's a CSV file or an Excel file, our developer can actually write it so that it becomes a couple of clicks to just drop it right into here. And then you're just verifying everything looks good, and then you're going to post it. If I post this, this shows up as a reconciling item. Again, I'm in a journal entry, but it lets me do all of that right here. GP never let you do that. So we do think that this is a pretty cool defining characteristics of BC versus GP. The last thing is, I called it fun because I wanted to have a little bit of fun in here. So this is essentially the same screen I took you in earlier, like a purchase journal. But in here, I'm doing a 1-line journal entry, which is going to debit and credit the account. Then I'm doing it as a 2-line journal entry here, just the same thing to showcase to you. I can accomplish the same thing just in 1 line right here, okay? I'm gonna come into here for this document, hit this GL account. It's gonna be the expense side of it, and it's gonna come out of the prepaid over here, okay? Then I'm just outright doing it all right here, right in the screen, just like I could have done with my debit and credit amounts, except that the system deals with amounts this way. If it's the generic amount, if it's a positive amount, it's a debit. If it's a negative amount, it's a credit. And so it knows that this is a credit. This one's looking at the debit side of it for the expense. It's going to be a credit to the prepaid expense, okay? And then just to have a little bit more fun, I can charge up an AR, all in a journal entry. I could charge up a cash receipt by going to my bank account, and I could do a vendor payable, all within one journal entry here. That's why I called it my fun batch. I could do all these things simultaneously, and if I post this, it's going to hit the payable stuff, it's going to hit the receivable stuff, it's going to hit my bank, and it's going to do all my lines of journal entries, all from this one screen. Nobody actually keys stuff like this, but I think it's kind of a unique thing to let you see like what the capabilities are to get data into our system. It's super, super easy, okay? So if I come into here and I go ahead and wanted to post this, it would do it. I'm going to do a preview post on this one. And what you're going to see is it's going to let me see, I've got a vendor entry going on. I've got 2 customer ledger entries, one for the one for the cash receipt and one for the actual AR. And then I've got all these journal entries. So again, those doc numbers are in here. And so again, I can see here's the 2-line journal entry that I did off the 1 line, the exact same journal entry that I did on the 2 lines. And then here's me hitting the sales account, the revenue account, and the AR account for that customer. And then I get to come into another customer and I'm hitting my cash account and I'm hitting my AR account to offset that cash receipt. And then I've got my vendor going in and he's going to get expensed out to that account and hit the payable. So again, nobody would ever do a journal entry like this, but the capabilities are there. It's that flexible and it's that easy. The other thing that you can do here is, again, we get to do edit in Excel here. And so I might have shot myself in the foot here as I went out here and I changed this, but there's a couple things you can do. This is that same salaries, that payroll entry we were just looking at, but I can now do it in here. And what I'm showcasing you here is I came into this and I technically cleaned this whole thing up so that maybe I could do a copy and paste from another file and bring it into here. But all I really have exposed into here is, hey, what's my template? What's my batch name? And what doc, how do I want to get these doc numbers in, right? And technically speaking, all of these should have the same doc number. That shouldn't be on its own. Sorry. That was a oops. All of these are related to the same entry. So anyway, in here, it's going to go out here and do all this stuff. But what it also is doing is it lets me hit all my dimensions out here, which I didn't fill any in. I just wanted to leave them blank, but I have total control. Now, you'll note that this only goes out to column S, right? And I could have removed a bunch of these shortcut dimensions, but I actually did this. What I did is I took a screenshot of what the screen looks like when you first open it. And so what the system allowed me to do was, instead of it stopping at S, this is the default one for doing a journal entry. I went through design mode and I removed all the fields that I didn't need. I also could have then resorted in what order all of my columns appeared in, all through the design mode. And then I can save this on my desktop, call it my payroll entry batch, because this is tied to that payroll batch. And now it's sitting here waiting for me to do something with it. And I could just copy from one, drop it into here if I set it up right, and go for it. Or I could have our developer do the way that they want to do it, and you guys could have multiple ways to get your payroll entries in. So we've got edit in Excel all over the place, and the capability to do it. We bring in your master records using it. We bring in all sorts of data all throughout the system using it. Super flexible. Okay, I think that was pretty much from a high level perspective, trying to whet your appetites about what you can do in the system. The last couple of things that I want to talk about is, one is we have these action bars. And so if I wanted to do a purchase order, right, instead of going up to purchasing purchase orders, I could click here. The difference would be is when I click one of these and go to sales orders, let's say, it's going to take me to the list of my unposted sales orders. Or if I went to purchasing and purchase orders, it would take me to my unprocessed purchase orders. Here, it wants me to start a transaction super fast. And so if I click here, it just takes me right into the screen rather than the list of undone ones. And I could start to type in who I wanted to do this to and start keying in my purchase order. So we have action panes that are out there to do this for you. And then the last piece of it is we are browser agnostic. You can use anything, Chrome, Edge, Firefox, whatever you want to use. We are mobile enabled. You can be on a tablet. You can be on a Windows phone, or an actual phone, an Apple, whatever you're on, doesn't matter. And so there's a mobile app you can usually download, or you can just get into the site, and the site's actually going to skinny it down to let you get in and actually get into BC. I was actually on vacation once, and it was the one time I didn't take a laptop, and somebody called me and said, hey, I'm getting this weird error. Could you take a look at it? I'm like, I don't have my laptop. I go, hey, I got my phone, and I managed to log into my customer on my phone. It was a sales order, and I could tell them why they were getting the error from my phone. So again, it's the good and bad, right? We can't get away from work anymore, but at the same time, it's super flexible for us to be out there doing all of that stuff. And with that, I went a little bit long, but I'm going to open it up for questions, Tim.
Yeah, I don't see any right now.
Some of the other things in the system, just to be aware, if you did fixed assets in GP, you get fixed assets over here as well. It's all part of the main license that you get. We also have full licenses, which could be inclusive of manufacturing or not manufacturing. The full license gets you pretty much, if you were a distributor in GP, it's like all the same modules. You get SOP, POP, inventory, GL, APAR, bank recs, all that stuff. So from that, you get lots of access. So you got fixed assets, and you can even do project or jobs inside of here for the base one. And then we have a Teams license that's way cheaper. And then a free Teams license to get into the system as well. Was that a question I saw from Jeff?
Yeah. You see it?
I didn't see it. Go ahead and read it.
Jeff said, I currently copy paste Excel into GP journal entry screen. Does BC only have the feature with building an interface to a CSV? With BC, I have to hire a developer to build an interface.
Nope. You can do copy paste. So in my journal entry, if I were to create a brand new one, it takes in GP, there was 4 fields and only 4 fields that you could have into there. And technically speaking, ours could actually be a little bit more robust than that, just to be clear. So let's just do TWJ3. And if I went into this, right, I could literally take a copy of this, drop it into Excel. And if I had my dimension values in here, I could be having that laid out so that I could drop all my stuff into there. And then I would be able to copy and paste right back into here. So if there's only 4 or 5 fields that I want to make sure that I get them in the proper order here. And then it'll take it out to Excel for me there. I can have that out there saved as my layout. And anytime I go in there and build my journal entry out there, I could do a copy out of Excel. I would come right into here and do a paste, and it'll drop in all my lines right into here. It's similar to what GP was, but GP only let you have the 4 fields and they had to be in a very specific order. This one gives you a little more flexibility, Jeff.
Tom, can you touch on workflow approvals and if they're included?
Yes. So yes, they are. So again, in here, we do have the ability to do workflows, and they do work a little bit better than GP. GP was in the early days of trying to get workflows going, Microsoft all over the place. And so in here, these are all the out-of-the-box templates that you can do about, GL batch approval or journal line approvals or vendor approvals or customer approvals. We would just take these and we can tweak them. And then you do have to use, if you're on Office 365 or now M365, it's super clean and easy. I do believe you can still do this through your Exchange. If you're on your own Exchange server, you cannot do Google, Gmail and be able to do our workflows, just to be clear. Now, the other part of this would be, is some of you might have known about Flow, which is a sister product to Power Apps. It's now called Power Automate. And so the idea would be that's a workflow engine that's built outside of GP, but GP recognizes it inside the system. And so you could create those things when you go into a purchase invoice or a sales invoice or a sales order or a purchase order. When you're doing any of these documents that has a workflow attached to it, you would then come into here and say, I want to request approval. And it could be that this same request approval would take it out to a Power Automate workflow instead of it being inside of BC. The distinction between the two would be this: if you're using the ones in here, then you have to come in and actually do your approvals inside of BC. If you want to be able to approve them from an email, then you'd want to use Power Automate. So those are the two distinctions as to where, and Power Automate has some flexibility a little bit beyond the out-of-the-box ones here, but all of this works out of the box for you. We just have to help you configure it. And then this one would send anybody, if you're using the out-of-the-box workflows inside of BC, it does send an email saying you've got things that you need to approve, but the approval is actually done in here, and you would see that you've got stuff waiting to be approved. Good question.
Is the inventory?
But it works a lot more seamlessly.
Sorry, Tom. The next question is: the inventory as robust as SalesPad?
Yes, I would like to say yes, because again, when I'm going in and you're talking SalesPad, so I'm going to assume it's sales order side of things. If I were to go in and be in an order, again, I'm getting all that same customer information being exposed to me in here. I get all that same kind of stuff that you get SalesPad-y kind of things. Is right from here, I could go look at other invoices that these guys have done with us. We have the ability to copy a prior sales invoice or a sales order. all those kinds of things that you could do inside of there, and it exposes a lot more details here than GP did for you. So this is very much sales pad-esque, now called Cavallo.
And the last question I see, Tom, it says we currently use Smart Connect to import multiple AP invoices. Is there an option in BC for something like that?
Yes. So again, Smart Connect works with BC just like it did with GP. We have Maner Link that can also help you bring data in, but we also have the ability to do so. One other way that we could bring that in. So let me just give you this caveat here. We technically get edit in Excel on a sales order or a purchase invoice or whatever, right? I can come in and I can get in to do, sorry, I'd have to do it from the other screen here. I can do edit in Excel, but it's only bringing in the header information. We have another way of bringing in data, which is called a config package. And so here we could create a configuration package. And what this would allow me to do is I can build it to bring in my sales orders or my purchase orders or my purchase invoices. And it lets me add the header information and the line information, and they all kind of come in and get conjoined. So there are ways for us to do that. But we also have all the same, well, not all the same. You had Integration Manager, which we don't have, but we have, we do allow you to use Smart Connect and our Maner Link and things like that. So yes, same capabilities.
I think that's all the questions we've had, and we're 2 minutes, I think, past our time. We will be sending the recording out in an email next week. And if there are other questions that you think of after you get off here, you can reach out to Tom or I. And so we appreciate you guys joining us today. And be on the lookout.
I was just going to add, any specific things to your environment, just shoot it out to us and we'd be happy to answer what the differences could be. Sorry, Tim.
No, all good. Yeah. So thanks again, everybody, for joining, and have a great
everybody.
day.